In this presentation, we're going to discuss retail stores as fulfillment centers and inventory blind spots. My name is Dr. Christopher Gonzalez, and I will be presenting this topic. Dr. Vikas Agarwal was a contributor to this topic as well. So this is the presentation format. Retail as innovation, retail as fulfillment. We're going to do a practical demonstration. We're going to discuss some key takeaways, and we're going to discuss the future of retail. So retail as innovation. Retail is the activity of selling a small quantity of items through at least one channel of distribution, such as in-store, e-commerce, and mobile applications. Retail is a service to customers. Retail has consistently provided answers to common customer questions, such as what do you create? What's your environment like? The format, the layout, the ambiance, the trade area. What do you offer? What's your product offering like? What's your product assortment, your product traceability, your sustainability? What do you charge? What's your pricing like? Do you offer price matching, markdowns, discounts? How do you save me time? How much time can you save me? So here we're looking at payment types. So do you offer to pay whatever I want to pay so I can spend less time at the checkout? So payment types would include credit cards, Apple Pay, and so forth. And then we're looking at buy online and pick up in store, and your location proximity. So what do you portray? What's your image like? Are you known to be a one-stop place for all my needs? Are you a category killer? Are you a fully omni-channel business where your message is unified across all channel points? Because retail is customer-centric by nature, it requires a change in definition as customers evolve. An old competitive advantage gets disrupted and a new competitive advantage starts. This new competitive advantage is superior to the previous one. However, disruption requires an increase in both time and investment to be truly realized within the marketplace. Here are some examples of disruptive retail innovations that have occurred over time. This list is by no means exhaustive. However, they serve to illustrate the retail evolution they created. So in 1962, we're looking at the big box store. 1974, the UPC scanner. 1988, the use of continuous replenishment. 1991, the use of e-commerce platforms. And in 2010, a unified marketing message through omnichannel. In 2021, now we're discussing micro-fulfillment. Retail as fulfillment. Fulfillment centers can turn inventory over very quickly. They are designed for short-term storage, and they can ship parcels to individual customers. Because large retail chains consist of many stores, which are near customers, each store can act as a micro-fulfillment center. This means that a customer can, in some cases, will be less than 10 miles from a micro-fulfillment center. The idea is this: increasing the number of retail distribution locations increases your presence and reduces your customer response time. This is especially evident when one wants to shorten the amount of time a customer waits for an online order. Retail can be broken into 4 quadrants: specialty, chain, e-commerce, and fulfillment. On a vertical axis, we can think of retail as time to possession, or how quickly can I obtain access to the inventory after purchase. It's our satisfaction velocity. That is the rate of possession. Satisfaction velocity can be fast or slow, A fast satisfaction velocity or rate of possession is the highest when the customer goes in store to acquire the item. Nothing beats the rate of possession because it is immediate. The slowest form of possession are those retail formats where a customer places an order online and waits for the order to be delivered to them. This form of satisfaction velocity has a systematic lag built in. The best retail formats cannot escape this lag. Quick inventory turns for fulfillment centers are possible when these fulfillment centers have a national distribution, and this is what we intend to show here. So here we see the fulfillment center, and we're saying that that fulfillment center has a national distribution. Although e-commerce is convenient, it has a slow form of satisfaction velocity. The chain store has the highest form of satisfaction velocity due to their strategically mapped locations. However, chain stores have the longest travel time, so that's measured in terms of miles, while e-commerce has the shortest travel time, which is measured in terms of feet. For a generic fulfillment center, an item arrives at the dock and the store worker assigns a bin or numerical storage location for the inventory item. The computer system records the storage location as well as the count of the inventory item. A customer checks the availability of the inventory item with the fulfillment center's computer systems. The customer sees the inventory item available and places an online order for that inventory item with the fulfillment center. The computer establishes a batch for the inventory item as well as others and assigns the batch to the first available pick worker. The pick worker retrieves the inventory item from the bin location and sends the inventory item to the packing department to be packed and shipped. The shipped item arrives at the customer location. The auditing function is used when the picker tries to pick an item from a binning location that the computer states should be there, but is not. So because inventory turns are important for fulfillment centers, inventory updates must be as close to immediate as possible. This ensures customer satisfaction and invites repeat purchases. So this is what this slide is intended to show. For a generic retail store, an inventory item arrives at the retail store's dock and is received by a receiver who reconciles the inventory received. After this reconciliation, a retail worker brings the inventory item to the sales floor and informs the computer that the inventory item is stored on the sales floor at the predefined designated storage location. So it's in a numerical shelf location. A customer comes and picks that inventory item from its designated location and pays for that inventory item. In large retail chain stores, there generally exists two computer systems. One is for the payment of transactions, and the other is for inventory management. So a reconciliation process for these two computers does take place, but it is not immediate. Thus, it produces a natural lag in the system. So an audit is generally required when the reconciliation leads to a discrepancy between the computer and the sales floor counts. So this natural lag and its potential for discrepancy is what we call the inventory blind spot. So managing this inventory blind spot is crucial when retail stores take on different formats, such as in-store, buy online, pick up in store, and e-commerce. So here are two labels. So the top label is an example of a bin label for a fulfillment that uses chaotic slotting. So if you notice, the location number that's used identifies the location that it's within the fulfillment center. So with chaotic slotting, you can have more than one item to be kept in a single location. So for example, this bin location can have cereal, paper towels, and baby wipes kept there. Okay, so that's chaotic slotting. The bottom label is an example of a shelf label used by a chain store that uses fixed slotting. Notice the location number to identify the item's location, which is circled there. With fixed slotting, a single item is kept at that location. For example, a single cereal brand could be kept at a single shelf location. So we see that inventory enters the retail store generally from the warehouse or through some qualified supplier. Both the warehouse and supplier can contribute to the retailer's on-hand inventory levels. So G10 is normally used for data sharing among the warehouse, supplier, and retailer. So using the G10 as an inventory identifier allows all participants to track the inventory item as it makes its way to them. Using G10 is important to maintain inventory identifier consistency. So in case you're not familiar with G10, G10 is an identifier that was developed by GS1. The uniqueness and versatility of the GS1 identifier is useful in establishing which product in one database corresponds to which product in another database. And this is especially true across organizational boundaries. So this is especially true here between the warehouse, the supplier, and the retailer. So understanding how the on-hand inventory is created and tracked helps us in understanding inventory replenishment when the goal is to maintain inventory levels for the segmentation of pickers. So here we're looking at the in-store customer, the store associate fulfilling an online order, and the home delivery of an order to a home. Understanding how time and space plays a role in replenishment is important. So we see that the sales floor storage is determined by the underutilization of unused space, okay? And the capacity to stock efficiently and effectively. Both together add to the visibility of the inventory item, to the in-store customer, to the store associate trying to fill a buy online, pick up in store order, and the home delivery of the item sent from the store. Having a good sales floor inventory position is crucial for all pickers, regardless of their satisfaction velocity. Therefore, we believe that retail stores should use electronic product code enabled radio frequency identification technology to automate the process of finding and validating inventory items. This does not alleviate the inventory blind spot condition. However, it allows for those customers with high satisfaction velocity to be satisfied the most. So there are two potential barriers in implementing a fulfillment system. The first is to establish an optimal picking path where inventory that is picked is rather picked quickly, accurately, and efficiently. The Hamiltonian circuit or the traveling salesman problem can be applied here. The second is the reduction of inventory blind spots, where the exhausted inventory supply leaves one customer satisfied at the expense of another. This can be evident when both online and in-store customers draw upon the same source of dwindling supply. We believe the use of fuzzy logic is most appropriate here, where the amount of inventory that is needed is unclear or vague. An example of a fuzzy logic system can be found in aerospace, where fuzzy logic systems are used in altitude control. So this is a practical demonstration of an optimal picking path using the Hamiltonian circuit. So as buy online and pick up in store continues to grow in popularity, fulfilling those online orders quickly, accurately, and efficiently will also continue to grow. This will require employees to move through the store with picking carts to fulfill these orders. This can create two problems. First, this can create an inconvenience for in-store customers because of the in-store traffic congestion it can create. Second, retailers will not be able to minimize the time needed to fulfill the order and will have to take on more resources, such as more employee time as a result. So let's say that there's an online order that needs to be filled, and this order can be filled by picking many different items from many different departments, which are indicated in yellow. So now you can either take path A or path B to fulfill this order as indicated in the red and blue lines. So here, if we go with blue, we first go to sporting goods, electronics, then to furniture, then the girls' clothing, then the chemicals, then to bed and bath, and then the pharmacy, then the grocery, then we can exit the system. The path B, which is the red line, which will go from grocery to pharmacy to chemicals to bed and bath to girls' clothing to furniture, greeting cards, electronics, and then sporting goods, and then it exits the system. So path A and path B are only two possible paths you can take from many multiple paths you can take to fulfill an online order. This is what they call an EHP, which is an extremely hard problem or difficult to solve. Solving this problem can create a win-win situation for retailers. Retailers will be able to use as few resources as possible. The path chosen is the most efficient because it saves time and reduces in-store traffic congestion. How can we solve this problem? This is an EHP problem, or extremely hard to solve problem. There is no efficient way to actually solve the problem. One can always use heuristics or meta-heuristics to solve this problem, or one can generate an algorithm in such a way that many different permutations and combinations of routes are possible, and the one chosen should give you an optimal solution with the most reasonable amount of time. And this is what they call the brute force method of actually doing that. So we believe that optimal picking path heuristics will become a normal state of operations going forward. So now we're going to talk about a practical demonstration of inventory blind spots using fuzzy logic. Fuzzy logic is intended to measure logical reasoning with vague or imprecise statements. It is employed to handle the concept of partial truth, where the truth value can range from true to false, and you can think of truth as a bottle of milk. Either the bottle has all the milk or it does not. If the bottle advertises itself as having 70% milk, this means that the total volume of the milk in the bottle must be composed of 70% milk, or the mixture of the milk must be 70%. To use fuzzy logic, we must first define our predicate logic. A predicate is the natural language we use to state something about the subject of interest. For example, John likes ice cream. The subject here is John, and the predicate would be likes ice cream. Here we can use predicate logic to define our inventory condition. If demand is high and the lead time is long, then inventory is short. Here, demand is high and the lead time is long is our subject, and the inventory being short is our predicate. If demand is average and the lead time is average, then the inventory at shelf capacity is best. Here, demand is average and the lead time is average is our subject, and the inventory at shelf capacity is our predicate. So these rules allow us to evaluate our business decision. So if you notice, we have two conditions of demand. We have demand as high or average because that's what we're interested in. We also have the lead time as being long or average because that's what we are also interested in. As a result, we're looking at inventory as being short or at shelf capacity. So here we're trying to determine the amount of inventory needed that is going to be between short and shelf by evaluating these predicate logic statements. So how much inventory should I carry if I believe these conditions will hold? So demand will be at 65%, lead time is 8 days. So this is an interesting question because it's based upon our assumption. This is based on our reality of our current situation. So it's our boots on the ground assessment, so to speak. So here we believe, based upon our assumption, that demand will be 65 days. We also believe that based upon our assumption that the lead time will be 8 days. So we're more or less using intuition to lead our business decision. So here we have two conditions of demand. So demand could be high or average. So again, this is coming from our predicate logic. So we are only interested in being high or average. So there are only two conditions we are interested in when it comes to demand. So that would be high or average. But there are three sets of demand. So we have demand being low, so demand being average, and demand being high. If demand is to be just low, low would have a membership of 1. So here, if you look, we have membership on the vertical, and we have it being between 0 and 1. So if you want to stay at a state of 1, it would just be just low. We have two conditions of low, so it could be low or not low. So low is possible when it's 20 or less, and it is not low when it's 20 or more. The same condition holds true when it is high. If demand is to be just high, high would have a membership of 1. We have two conditions of high or not high. High would be anything that is 80 or more, and not being high would have anything that is less than 80. We start to become high when we go from 60 to 80. So we start to become less low when demand approaches 40. Here we're saying that a good average will be between 20 and 80, and this is based upon our assumption of demand. So this is what we believe demand should be based upon our intuition. So using linear interpolation at 65, we see that high is going to be at 0.25, and we see that average is going to be 0.5. So we can say the same thing about lead time. So lead time is either long or average. So again, this is coming from our predicate logic. So we are only interested in being long or average. So there are two conditions that we're interested in when it comes to lead time, long or average. Here we have three sets of lead time: short, average, and long. If lead time is to be just short, short would have a membership of 1. If we have two conditions of short or not short. Short is possible when it's 2 days or less. It is short when it is not short when it's 2 days or more. The same holds true when it is long. If lead time is to be just long, it would have a membership of 1. So we have two conditions of long, so it could be either be long or not long. And long would be anything that is 10 days or more, and not being long would have anything that would be less than 10 days. We start to become long when we go from 6 to 10. So we start to become less short when the lead time approaches 4 days. Here we're saying that a good average would be between 2 and 10 days, and this is based upon our assumption of lead time. So using linear interpolation, at 8 days, we see that 8 days for average and long is at equilibrium, so they both arrive at the same point at the same time. So it gives us a value of 0.5 for both. So when we start to put this together, we see that we have two values for demand. So demand being high, we had it at 0.25, and demand being an average, we had that at 0.5. For a lead time, we had both long and average at 0.5, which we put into our equation here. And then we find the minimum of both of these values. So we find that the minimum of inventory being short is going to be 25%. And for the shelf, we find that to be at 50%. Okay, so here we have our inventory level. So remember, this is based upon our predicate. So remember, we're looking at it either being short or at shelf. So it's possible to be short when you have 4 items or less. So that would be, you're just totally short at that point. because it has a membership of 1. You have it at shelf when it's at 10 or more. So if your shelf capacity is at 10, so how can you have more than 10? It's very possible to have more than 10. So in some stores, what they'll have is they'll have risers. So inventory could be placed upon risers on the sales floor, or that inventory item could be kept in the back room where it's stored and actually used at a later point. So here we're saying that the number of items we should stock should be between short and shelf. So here we're saying that inventory is short 25% of the time, and we're saying that it should also be at shelf capacity 50% of the time. And we take in a weighted average, and we should have 8 items, which we did. So here are some key takeaways. So retail by nature is a disruptive innovation. So we just got finished saying that retail is customer-centric by nature. So as customers evolve, the retail must evolve. 2, stores can be classified as micro-fulfillment centers. We have shown that the retail stores have many common characteristics of a fulfillment center. 3, optimal picking paths can be determined by constructing Hamiltonian circuits. So this is important if the goal is to get quick, accurate, and efficient service for online orders. 4, inventory blind spots can be mitigated by using fuzzy logic. So this is assuming that the retail store supplies both online and in-store customers from separate information systems. So we're saying that both of those exist and that there is a natural lag that exists between the two. So this natural lag cannot be captured by a traditional information system. Therefore, we must use some form of intuition to keep the inventory levels at a particular level so that this way all pickers or customers are satisfied. So now we're going to discuss the future of retail. So in-store automation. So when retail stores evolve into fulfillment centers, fulfilling online orders is going to be a massive task that will require some form of automation of routine, mundane, and repetitive tasks. The degree of automation will depend on the volume of online orders received and the level of customization the store wants to get. So, for example, it could be the use of a virtual personal shopper, as an example. 2, employees having more specialized roles. Traditional roles require employees to organize and stock inventory on the sales floor. With retail stores evolving into fulfillment center, an expansion of traditional roles will be needed to include order fulfillment. We believe cross-training of employees is needed for these employees to switch to a new retail design format that includes order fulfillment. These employees will need to understand different order packing arrangements for packing efficiency and the reduction of loss due to product damage and transport. 3, picking accuracy and efficiency. This will increase time savings due to efficient packing accuracy. 4, private green delivery fleets. So we believe home delivery will expand over time. So this will lead to questions of green sustainability. So competition in the home delivery market will lead to the greening of delivery fleets. 5, the minimization of the inventory blind spot. So the expansion and use of fuzzy logic to control inventory levels will become more widespread as technological lags among informational systems continues to persist. So that concludes our presentation. My name is Dr. Christopher Gonzalez. You can find me at Lafayette, and that is my email address. Thank you for listening to my presentation.